Hello, it is Monday, April the 6th, and we are ready to talk about Theodore Roosevelt. But I'm going to do something different today because Theodore Roosevelt was an adventurer and he liked nature. He was a conservationist at heart. We're going to go on a little bit of a walk while I talk to you about him. Okay, so I'm going to take you with me and we're going to walk up here in the woods behind my house while I talk about Theodore Roosevelt. Um, so you see the basic information there on, and I'll try to let you see some of a little bit what's behind me. I might have to walk backwards into the trees. Okay, so actually I'm going to walk forward. Theodore Roosevelt is number 26. Maddox should be able to tell us quite a bit about him because he represented him in the Wax Museum. We are finally in a new century, 1901 to 1909. I don't know if you can see, I've got a creek down here. Can you see that? Okay, he was a Republican. His vice president, he only had a vice president the second term. Remember, he became president when McKinley was assassinated. So the first term, he didn't have a vice president because he was it. But his second term, there's the pond. The second term was Charles W. Fairbanks. Nicknames, he had quite a bit. I even looked it up because I don't know why I have that on there. I've got something moving around on the hill there. I can't tell what it is. Okay, I even looked it up because there were several. Teddy, a lot of people called him Teddy. After his first wife died, though, and we're going to get to that in a minute, he didn't like going by Teddy very much. A lot of writers that I was reading today were referring to him as TR. Another nickname that I particularly liked was the Happy Warrior because he did like battle. And he liked the idea of war, but he was also a very happy person, as you can see in this picture right here. And another one that I liked was the Old Lion. I have this at the end, but when he died, one son sent a telegram to the other sons that their father had died, and in it he says, the lion is gone, or I'll get there in a minute, but the old lion has passed, or something like that. So it was something that how they referred to him. Trying to show you a little bit about what I'm seeing. It's really pretty out here. I've got this big tree that's down right across the path. And then all the woods behind me. This really does make me think about Theodore Roosevelt because he conserved more land, I think, than any other president, and saved it. And he had this idea of saving it for the generations that were coming behind them. Okay, so now I've got 3 pictures here of him. And this one here is his presidential portrait. And I read today that the painter, and he went all over the White House looking for a place that they could take this painting. And they looked all over the place. And they had walked and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked. And he was finally about to give up. And Teddy Roosevelt just put his hand on the banister and said, "Look, I think we're about done with this search." And when the painter saw him do that, he said, "Stop, right there. We have it. That's our picture." So that was the painting. And I like this one because that's how I picture him a lot of times, is smiling and laughing. And then this one shows him as an explorer, as an adventurer, as someone who loved nature and wanted to preserve it for the generations coming behind him. Okay, his wives. Now, this gets interesting because when he was in college, he went to Harvard. While he was in college, he met his wife. He met a girl named Alice, and he loved her instantly. He thought she was beautiful. He thought she was wonderful. Are you gonna come with me? If I drop my computer, you got to send for help. Okay. All right. I'm bringing you down here in the creek with me. See? Okay. So he met Alice Lee. Alice Lee, from everything I can tell, she was just beautiful and kind and sweet and nice, and he loved her. And he thought the world of her. She was wonderful. She was everything he ever wanted. And so they married, and for 3 years were very, very happy. And she had a baby named Alice. And just a day or two after the baby was born, she died. Everything was going well. She was doing wonderful, and he gets a call that his wife is not doing well. Bug on my screen. So he rushes to her side, makes it, but not with a lot of time left. And so his mom died the day before, and then she died. And the only thing he wrote in his journal that day, he put a big line on his journal, and at the very bottom he wrote, "The light has gone out of my life," at the end of that day. And he was very sad. He was an idealist in a lot of ways and thought that that would be it, that that would be the only one he could ever love or marry. And to kind of get away, he had already started getting involved. Okay, I'm trying not to destroy my computer. He had already started getting involved a little bit in politics, and when his wife died, he just decided to get out. And he went out west into what was considered the Badlands and became a cowboy and worked as a ranch hand. And a lot of the people that he met just thought that he wasn't going to make it, that he was just this rich kid. Hold on. Ooh! Did you hear that? I splashed. I saved my computer though. I'm wet. Do you see my legs? I fell. Oh well. Teddy Roosevelt would be proud of me. Okay, so he went out west as a. There's the puddle I fell in. As a cowboy, and kind of to try to get rid of his sorrow. And so he came back a few years later, and then he met back up with Edith. Edith was no one new. Edith he had grown up with. He grew up with Edith, and Edith was a best friend to his sister. And but when he went off to college, there's some thinking that they probably had a disagreement and they fought. And so he was kind of separated from Edith, and that's when he met Alice. So he gets back up with Edith when he comes back, and they started to talk again, and they realized that they were in love, and they got married. And she was quieter than he was, I believe. She had a love of books, just like him. He loved to read, even on his adventures. And I'll tell you about another one in a minute. Even on his adventures, he would plan and take books with him. Even in his packing, he just would take tons and tons of books. That was part of his plan for his trips. And She was firm. I think she kind of kept him grounded. He had a tendency to act like a little kid, and she would just kind of keep him in line and say, come on. But she was never mean to him. One thing that she tried to do while they were at the White House was to protect her family from the press. She had a very young family. She had little kids, and she just wanted them to be little kids. And so she tried to protect them um, from the massive press that would always be around them if she didn't protect them from it. Isn't this pretty where I'm walking? Okay. She was the first lady to hire a full-time secretary. I think that's kind of interesting about her. I think she needed one to try to keep her life with her children organized and try to make sure that she was doing the other things that she needed to do as a first lady. Okay. Next. Their time at the White House, that was lively. Often it was referred to as a circus. They had 6 children, the oldest of which was Alice from his first marriage, and she was pretty wild. She enjoyed just making everybody go crazy. She enjoyed making the press have something to say. They had lots of pets. They had a macaw. They had a badger. They had guinea pigs. They had rabbits. They had lizards. Almost anything you could think of, they probably had 1 or 2 or 3 of. One story goes, I'm not sure if I can get around this. One story goes that when one of the boys was sick, the other two of the other boys decided that they were going to take the pony in the elevator up to, I think it was Quentin, who was sick. So they took the pony, Algonquin was his name, up in the White House to visit their brothers. The boys were, another story goes, I think it was Quentin, that went to the pet store and got a whole bunch of snakes. Brought it back to the White House, barged in on his father when he was in a meeting, and said, "Look what I have, Dad," and dropped the snakes right on the president's desk. And all of the men in the meeting then went crazy trying to find where all the snakes went in the White House. Another one was they were flashing lights in one of the government buildings and bothering them while they were working. And so they called them to the president's office and they got kind of a mock talking to that they were messing with important national business. Okay, this is me in the Natural History Museum in New York, and there is a special section for Teddy Roosevelt here. You see me with his statue there, and then even as a young kid, he loved to collect animals. He always smelled the room where he brought all of his stuff in, always smelled, because he was always keeping it and learning how to do taxidermy even as a young age, which is like trying to keep the animal as it is. Here's his jacket from the time he was a cowboy and out west, and all of that was in the museum there. So those are just my personal pictures. Okay, a little bit about Teddy Roosevelt. I am afraid to walk on this because I'm afraid that you are going to watch me fall. So see that log? I don't think I'm going to do that today. Okay. He was raised in a wealthy family in New York City. Everybody knew the Roosevelt name. He loved his dad. His dad was famous and well-known and honored and respected in the community, and honored and respected by Teddy also. And one day, Theodore was not a very healthy boy. When he was weak, he had asthma, he was picked on frequently, and his dad pulled him aside one day and said, they called him TD, not Teddy. TD, you have the mind, but you need to make your body. And so he built him a gym in the house, and Teddy forced himself to be strong. And he worked out, and he built his body. He took taekwondo, he did boxing, he taught himself how to be, he made himself strong. And that was really the motto of his whole life. Whatever you want to be, you make yourself be that. And he was, like I already said, at a young age, he was always interested in nature, bringing in many specimens and studying them and keeping them in the house. He went to Harvard to study law, to study science. But then after he was there for a while, he changed into studying law and then had already begun getting involved in politics as a young man at Harvard. Then I've already told you his wife died and he went out to the Badlands to become a cowboy. He comes back. He marries Edith. And then he gets in politics again and becomes the governor of New York. He then becomes the Assistant Secretary of the Navy under McKinley. But then when the Spanish-American War starts, he wants to get involved. And so he resigns his position and calls for a bunch of the men that he had worked with in the Badlands and takes his group of kind of Badlands people to the Spanish-American War. And they're called the Rough Riders. Of all the presidents, he enjoyed being president. I think I've told you about many that said of their time that they were happier leaving than entering the office. And that was not true of Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt loved being president. He loved the time his family was in the White House. And I think they all enjoyed being there. I think they enjoyed their time there. Even Edith. I think Edith enjoyed her time there. I'm going to sit on this log. But he had promised to only run for one term. So he served for the one after McKinley died, and then he ran again and won. But he said that he wouldn't serve another one. And so he supported Taft, and Taft won. But then after Taft was president, Teddy was not really pleased with how he was as a president. One thing you have to know about Theodore Roosevelt is he was very opinionated and he had no problem telling his opinions to other people. And so he decided that he was going to run against Taft, but the Republicans wouldn't nominate him. The Republicans were going for Taft. So he created his own party, the Bull Moose Party, and ran against Taft, and neither one of them won. Wilson won. Okay, so a little bit about his personality. I wanted to put this on here even though we've talked a little bit about it because I want to give you a really clear idea of who he is. He is active, athletic. Even in the White House, he took his guests on hikes. He played tennis. He looked at one guest. They had played tennis. They had been on hikes. He said, "What do you want to do now?" And the guy said, "Lay down and die." He was not slow in any sense of the word. He had made his body strong, and he stayed that way his whole life. He was adventurous. He was a cowboy. He was an adventurer. He was two weird things that I think are interesting about him is that he was a big game hunter. He loved to go on these like big safaris where he was hunting this big game, but he was also a conservationist. He saved millions of acres of land. He went on a big game hunt in Africa after he lost the election and took his son Kermit with him. And then the book I just read was talking about how he went down the Amazon and explored a brand new river called the River of Doubt that no one had ever been all the way down with a team of explorers after his defeat. He many times acted like a kid. He had energy. He had enthusiasm. He was very talkative. Many people said he just liked to hear the sound of his own voice. He was boastful. He was curious, though. The explorer that he went with on the exploration in Brazil said he was always asking him questions. What's this? What's this? What's this? Another story that I read said he was whispering with someone else in a very political time, and someone asked what he was whispering about, and it was about a type of bird that he had seen on his property and wanted to know what the man thought it was. He was always in favor of war. He always wanted to be in war. He thought that it was glory to serve in a war. And then his home after the White House was Sagamore Hill. I would encourage you to get on nps.gov and look up Sagamore Hill. There are all kinds of different things, different articles. There's different virtual tours that you can take of his house, and it's a really neat place to see. While he was campaigning again for that third term, he was shot and continued to make his speech after being shot. He didn't stop. He kept talking and then was taken to the hospital. And he lived. It didn't kill him. He wanted to serve in World War I, but President Wilson refused to let him serve. All of his sons, though, served in the war, and one was killed. And that about killed him. He was so upset when his son Quentin was killed in the war, and many people said that that's when he no longer acted like a kid, that took the life out of him. And about a year later, he died at his home, not in glory, not in battle, not in the woods, not on any great adventure like all of the other times that he had been. And one of his sons cabled the other and said, "The lion is dead." Okay, I want you to think back of all of the things that I've said. I want you to give me a good example of one thing that shows that he was adventurous. There's a million different things. One thing, name one thing that shows. And it can be something maybe that I didn't talk very much about, or something that I didn't, that you don't necessarily think of off the bat as being adventurous, but does show that he was adventurous. Name one thing that shows he's adventurous. And tell me another part. What part of his personality do you admire the most? What part of his personality do you admire the most? One, what showed he was adventurous? Two, what part of his personality do you admire the most? Okay, I hope you enjoyed your tour of my woods. I'm going to go home and get some clean clothes on. Have a good day.